non-public meeting minutes from December 9th, as well as the special meeting minutes from December 18th as presented.
And I'll make a separate motion to accept the meeting minutes from the January 13th public hearing and the January 13th special meeting as written. Any discussion?
Now I'm going to have to abstain.
Well, so we have two motions on the table. So would you like to take the vote first for the first motion
Yes.
that's on the table for all meeting minutes except for the night of January?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So
And vote for that.
all approved? And any discussion on the second set of meeting minutes from the January 13th public hearing and the 13th special meeting? All approved.
Do you have any abstentions or opposed?
Abstention.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Looks like we have one that has come forward.
Correct.
If you could please state your name and your address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Cipriano, live on Lower Lane here in Hampstead. I just wanted to come forward. Oh, sorry. Awesome. Jason Cipriano, I live on Lower Lane. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I just wanted to come forward this evening and say that some number of years ago when I was on the school board, I happened to be talking to a counterpart in a different district, and I heard about an up-and-coming principal in that district who was, at the time, working with the next charter school in Derry. And in the years that I served on the board and the years since, I heard pretty consistently from administrators and board members about this up-and-coming administrator who any district would be fortunate to have. So I'm really excited that this evening the board will put forward and consider for our superintendent vacancy, Dr. Crawford. Everything that I've heard over the years about him and his work in public education has just been outstanding, and I am just very excited to see what he does in Hampstead. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Cipriano. All right, moving on to Pinkerton Academy highlights with Ellie Henry.
Good evening. Here are Pinkerton Academy's highlights. Today, students got to sleep in thanks to a 2-hour delay caused by the snow, making it a great way to kick off the first day of the second semester. Last week, students had Monday off in accordance to Martin Luther King Jr. Day, followed by finals from Tuesday through Friday. With grades now closed, students have begun selecting their classes for the next school year. On January 15th, Pinkerton hosted an 8th grade course night for incoming Astros and their families. During finals week, students were also able to relax at the Pet a Pup event, where they were able to visit therapy dogs in the media center. Additionally, the freshman and senior class officers hosted a school-wide skating night at ice skating rink on January 24th, which many students enjoyed. And February is approaching quickly, and the winter dance will be taking place on February 7th as well. Lastly, French class students traveled to Quebec this weekend, where they enjoyed a variety of activities such as dog sledding, tobogganing, visiting the ice hotel, tubing, and exploring the city. Pinkerton is starting the semester strong, and everyone is excited for what's ahead. Any questions?
Questions or comments for Ellie? Thank you. And I do know you have to leave early, so stay as long as you like, and you're welcome to head out. Moving on to current business, we have the HCS Bridge the Gap Grant Award with Dr. Cheney.
Good evening. Tonight I have a brief update around the Bridging the Gap grant that HCS has been awarded. So as has been shared at earlier board meetings, we have been the recipients of the Bridging the Gap Award, which works to close the gap in achievement for literacy between special education students and regular education students. So our team has had its first leadership team meeting, and they worked on developing a vision statement. Our vision statement at this time is that we want out of this grant for all staff to feel empowered and supported in ensuring all students achieve literacy proficiency through evidence-based instructional practices, and that we partner with all families and community organizations in fostering literacy outside of school. At this point, we've shared that vision statement with our complete staff, and they're providing feedback to help us refine the statement. We are still looking for participants from the community and from parents. So if anybody is interested in joining this leadership team, it meets once a month, and we would welcome their participation. The grant has been funded as of last week, and we're working on writing up those grant activities. And those grant activities include letters training for 25 staff members, including our administrative team, who will be taking the Letters for Elementary course. We've also allocated funding for the Acadians Reading Essentials for any staff member who will be administering that assessment to students. And then the Acadians Reading Data Interpretation for staff who will be utilizing that data during our data weeks. We'll also use grant monies to purchase the Acadians Online Literacy Screener for students in grades K through 4. And finally, at this time, we will be purchasing touchscreen devices to support the administration. So there's a lot of professional development and professional learning that comes as a result of this grant. And we're working hard to finalize models to make sure that we're supporting staff in their participation. It's a big lift. These courses are not short. They come with graduate credit for a reason. So we're working on release time and utilizing professional development times already scheduled so we can build it into the day, because we're really committed to making sure that all of our staff have that opportunity. Beginning in this fall, we will also be training 3 literacy coaches to support our staff, and any staff member who's completed the first part of LETRS training, which is units 1 through 4, can receive coaching. So it's got some professional learning, some job-embedded PD, kind of all together. Any questions about where we are with the grant at this time? Yeah, so we have identified right now our 3 reading specialists. So that's Kristen Karamatopoulos, Karen LaPlante, and then Michelle Carberry works between both buildings. So we have identified all 3 of them to participate in the coaching training, since they all work with students in K through 4. Yeah.
I'll just say I'm extremely grateful for the grant, and I'm really hopeful that this will close a lot of the gaps in early literacy, and I'm grateful to all of the staff for really kind of taking this head on and really putting in the effort, so it's very much appreciated.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Moving on with everybody's favorite, the HMS Therapy Dog Program with Amy Bernard.
I always have to adjust down. There we go. So before I call up our school counseling team, because it's really their baby and they've put so much work and effort and time into this, I do want to take a moment to recognize Jennifer Howard, who today was honored by some members of the New Hampshire Department of Education for being named a semifinalist in New Hampshire Teacher of the Year 2026. So she's in the audience today. Congratulations, Jennifer Howard. When we say we are Hampstead, that is Jennifer Howard, so that's right, yeah. And so next I would like to invite up our school counseling team, Melissa Karpinski and Bob Mayu, to talk about our HMS Therapy Dog Program.
Thank you. Well, here's the sign of my age. I also jotted some notes down on my phone, Ellie, but here I am with my 14-point font and my reading glasses. Today we're here to share an update on the integration of the therapy dog program in our HMS school community. We want to highlight some of the ways in which we've integrated the dogs, and we have a short slideshow for you guys. But before we do that, we wanted to thank the SAU, Bob Thompson, Nicole Tomaselli, who else am I forgetting? Jeff Dowd, oh my goodness. I'm not reading my notes, so I probably should. Here I go. But really, thank you for your unwavering support and for really believing in this work. That really just gave us the credo to just go forward and make this what we thought we should be able to do for our school. Thank you to Amy Bernard and the entire HMS community for being incredibly supportive from the very beginning, and to our students. They embraced this initiative in a way that I didn't anticipate, and I should have anticipated, because Mr. Crawford, this is who Hampstead is. Our kids are incredible, and you'll see that. But they offered creative ideas, identified meaningful opportunities, and helped shape how the dogs would be integrated in daily school life.
Hi, friends.
She's tired.
I'm Bob Mayu. I had to borrow these glasses from someone in the audience. I'm no better than her. Thank you for the idea of this started in the building, but it really came to fruition at a school board meeting, and some of you were in those seats. I remember a couple of years ago saying, go ahead, make this happen, and that night Melissa started on this journey. I mean, she had been to two other schools and was talking to Pinkerton Academy really before I even knew it was happening. Back in November, Bob Thompson and Jeff Dowd come around and are saying, we're looking at some space maybe for the SAU. There could be some things happening here in the building. This is incredible. We have a shared space, a suite now in the building, a counseling suite that has opened up opportunities for staff and students that we didn't think. I had a small office, which I've been happy to have for 20 plus years here, no windows. What I have now is a shared space that I am seeing 5th graders, 6th graders, 7th graders, 8th graders, and Melissa's doing the same. We're all getting our money's worth out of it. And having the dogs here a couple of days a week is fantastic. Tucker Tuesday, Tucker Thursday, Bailey's buddies and Tucker's team. Feel Good Fridays. We're in good shape. Please come by and see this. You'll see these dogs in action starting before 8 a.m. at parent drop-off. You'll see them at the end of the day at parent pickup. Integrated into advisories. They're part of the culture now. They're making things happen. And just real quick, and I'm sorry, I know it's been more than 2 minutes, and I know you're part too. When I was in middle school, I was a struggling learner. I was a struggling reader as well. Recently, Tuck and I were stopping by Mrs. Bunnell's reading room, and some kids were in there reading. It was an 8th grade class wrapping up, 5th grade class coming in. One of the kids was like, Mr. Ryan, can I read to Tucker real quick? I'm like, yeah, sure, I have time, no problem. The 8th graders who were on their way out came back in, 4 of them, sat down. 5th graders came in, about 5 or 6 of them, Mrs. Bunnell. This kid read an entire book, a reader book, to Tucker, who sat staring at the boy the whole time. Everybody was amazed. I was amazed. I remember what it felt like to be in that chair as those kids. I would have loved to have a dog, staring back at me, giving me the encouragement. It was a super treat, and I don't think we'd have this opportunity if it wasn't for you guys and the ladies. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. One more quick word from Mrs. Karpinski.
Somebody should have timed us. I think part of what we were supposed to do tonight is let you know, share with you the official ways in which we've integrated the dogs into all these different life skills classes, reading room, bringing them by a classroom before they take the iReady or a math test. So those are all the official ways in which we've integrated them. But then I think about what I did not anticipate. We say all of our kids come in through the door, and our staff, with an invisible backpack, right? It's the child in the chair. Everyone's coming in with something, and then they have an opportunity in their day for a quick hello, whether it's in the hallway or a classroom or whatever it is. And to see that interaction and the impact that it has on the kids is something that is incredible and that I didn't plan for. So that, I think, is kind of the real special part of this. So there's just instant smiles, an instant calm, instant stress relief. It's really nice. So thank you guys for your support. Come and see us.
Yeah, stay tuned for some great updates from the dog program. Thank you very much.
Some pictures from our events. Nope.
Oh.
Thank you. right.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
I would just like to say, too, that I would echo their sentiments in thanking the SAU and the board for being for that space and allowing us to utilize that space as the counseling suite. It has been transformative, not only for this program, but also for the privacy of our students and staff while seeking their support. And we are just really excited to put that space to good use. Lots of student groups, just really, really great work that these two are doing. So I really appreciate them each and every day. Thank you. And I don't know if you have questions, but I'm not the dog person.
Who came up with the idea for the dog to have a staff ID?
Oh, the company, yeah.
That was awesome. That's just, that's so.
It's great.
They have yearbook. That's awesome.
We did have a student today say that Bailey was going to be named as their trusted adult in our trusted adult survey. We really liked that.
All right. Okay, moving down the agenda to our class size waiver request for grade 5.
So this is not nearly as entertaining, and it's really hard to follow up that with this. But thank you. I'd like to request a waiver for class size for our incoming 5th grade general education classes. The current school board recommended student to teacher ratio for 5th grade is 23:1. For 6th through 8th, the recommendation is 25:1, with a state maximum ratio of 30:1 for 5th to 8th grade. Our 4th grade class right now consists of 96 students. We would like to keep our current 5th grade schedule with 4 core classes, making the student to teacher ratio 24:1. This year it is currently 22:1. In comparison, grade 6 will be roughly 22:1, 7th is 24:1, and 8th is 17:1. That's our smallest grade right now, which is 7th. We feel that the benefit of the hour-long core classes is a huge benefit to our students for a variety of reasons, including less classes means less transitions for our students. And when I tell you that they would run around like crazy people, our little ones last year with their stuff in their hands, just looking like they were running ragged. It is just calm and collected and just a great space for learning. It allows our teachers to reinforce organization and executive functioning skills within the classroom. Teachers share that they feel less rushed and spend less time re-explaining things in class because they have more time to do it the first time through. This slowing down helps not to feed into anxiety of students. There is a sense of calm, and the teachers can redirect as needed. And Jen Howard actually said today, the students can just breathe now. And I thought that that was worth quoting. The transition between 4th and 5th grade is much smoother as the students are going from a self-contained classroom to full hour classes here. And I believe that their schedule right now, they have an hour of math, 2 hours of ELA in the central school. So now it's similar and it's mimicking that, but then still providing the middle school experience. This structure allows for push-in for specialized instruction, and it can be delivered within the general education classrooms. And we will make sure to plan for additional support in these classes, such as utilizing our reading and math specialists or additional paras as needed. So we will provide extra adult support in these classes for having to move up our student to teacher ratio, but we feel that that hour would really benefit our students. So I'll take questions.
So just speaking to the board, I'll be honest, I have concerns about just the class size overall of the ratio of 24 students in a class. Yeah. And in the past, we have had these class size waivers come through, but mostly we've seen it at the central school in my experience, where it was, a lack of space or something like that. And I guess my question to you, Amy, is have we explored the potential for other alternatives?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that we're going from a schedule where we had 42 minutes of instruction, and when you break it down, and I'm seeing head shake over here, you know what that means, right, with transitions? That means maybe 38, 37, maybe even 35 minutes of instruction. That is not enough time for math and reading. I think we know that, right? So we are going from 42 minutes to an hour. If we do 5 core classes, that'll put us at about 48 minutes. So we'll be losing 12 minutes of instruction. I've put together, asked a lot of people, put a lot of great minds together to come up with different solutions, whether it be that we take and put our computers class in as a 5th grade class, or we do a survey class of foundations utilizing our specialists. And thank you to Heather Mayu, who came up with an amazing proposal to expose our 5th grade students to a number of different things, including more math and more writing. So we do have some really great options, but my 5th grade team is pleading with the request because they know that this has been so beneficial to students.
And I definitely don't question, I want to make that clear, I'm not questioning the hour-long justification, the value in that. It's more the teacher-to-student ratio that I'm concerned about. Absolutely.
So I'm going to do something I told Dr. Crawford I wasn't going to do, and I'm going to put my middle school principal hat on real quick. Creating a middle school schedule is probably one of the most ridiculous things in the world. It is just extremely hard to do, and I know at one point I think you had like 30 minutes of math instruction happening, which was crazy. So to get it to where you have that nice sweet spot of an hour in each core content is really hard to do. That said, as long as you're able to, get those support, those other support personnel in, whether it be the reading specialists or the special educators, just to give that extra support in the classroom, you're going to be okay. It's hard for elementary school parents to kind of get behind that sometimes because they're used to that small group of kids being with the same teacher all day long. But really kind of transitioning to that middle school model is what is essential to get them ready to go on to high school.
We had a delay today. Our classes in our 5th grade, for our 5th grade, were 50 minutes, and the teacher said, man, 50 minutes wasn't enough time. They felt it even just that 10 minutes, even today.
Again, I'll reiterate, I have no concerns with the hour-long schedule and totally see the value in it. It's more the concern around the teacher-to-student ratio and just the unprecedentedness, I guess, for lack of a better term, of having a class that size.
But we also can't afford to add more teachers in order to make the class sizes small. We would love to have 13 kids in a class, but unfortunately it's just not in the cards budget-wise.
Well, or we're moving somebody from another teaching position, which means we're interrupting what the flow is of the current building.
Right.
And I think if you just ask the teachers to take on this and do what we're doing this year, and then you're going to strip that away and make them change it again. And the other thing too is if we make this bigger class size this current year, and then they're going to end up in the same class size the next year, and we're going to run into this issue over and over again. Do we know where the current incoming 5th grade is academically?
We do have roughly 29 or 30 that are special ed students. So there is a decent population. I think it was close to 30%. So we definitely have to factor that in as we plan.
Okay. But they'll also, because they are special ed, they're going to be getting extra help and getting pulled out for small groups and stuff like that.
Or within the classroom.
Okay. So there will be
both.
extra assistance within the classroom in order to help them and assist those classroom teachers.
I guess my only thought was just in general, with having a large group of students in a class, I think it can be done. I would just wonder, is there a quiet space for people to go if they do need to pull the small groups during that time, or kids need a quieter workspace.
Yeah, so we do have students that are pulled out all the time to go to different spaces, and we can definitely utilize. I have a WIN room, we have a library, so sometimes our students are pulled out for quiet time into their special education classrooms. So we definitely have other spaces.
I think as long as there's support, I think it's manageable. Are the teachers on board?
They're the ones who proposed it to me.
So I think we can trust them.
They are a phenomenal group. All of our staff is phenomenal, but they're advocating for kids, right? They're asking to have longer class so they can support their kids in the best way possible. So I have to be out there for them and advocate for them as well.
Yeah, it is. I mean, just doing the quick figures, it's 24 versus 19, which is a significant difference. But you're also looking at, if you're fundamentally changing things and changing to effectively a new curriculum, that kind of thing, that is going to affect them just as much as having a slightly larger class size.
Where did you get 19?
96 divided by 5. If there's four teachers, yeah.
I thought you meant this year. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
I'm saying if we had that fifth teacher. So,
Right.
yeah, and I think if the fifth grade teachers are comfortable with it and we get the right supports, they'll be in good shape.
I think we have to remember too, this is a transition year, right? So these are projections, so people
Right.
could move away, could be less, also could come back to the table if there's more. However, personal experience, I've had kids in both. I will tell you just the level of attentiveness and frenzy are vastly different from my children's experiences. So I understand where the teachers are coming from with transitions, more instructional time. I think it's beneficial, and if the teams put together a plan and they feel confident it's the best interest of the students, 2 more children in the classroom, they should be able to balance that out, and they've got the supports to do that.
Fair enough. All right. Does someone want to make a motion?
I will make that motion that we approve the waiver.
Oh, yeah, Denise got the second. Any further questions or discussion? All approved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for stepping up. I appreciate it.
Right. Moving on to the 2026-27 school district calendar. First reading.
Hello. So I projected the draft calendar behind you. This is our proposed calendar for this next school year. We have a student start date of September 1st for students. And it follows a similar pattern to previous school calendars. I believe you've already seen it in your packet, right? You had a chance to look at it.
And we typically try to follow Pinkerton's calendar, correct?
Yep, in your packet you will see the following page. Actually, there's a blank piece of paper, but then the next page is the calendar approved by Pinkerton. We did find an error on it, actually, for Memorial Day. They had the wrong date listed, and I don't know if this is the corrected version yet, but Memorial Day is relevant to us because we stack a professional learning day onto that. So on our calendar, you'll see the correct date. It's May 31st, and we have a professional learning day, May 28th, which is a Friday. But otherwise, the early releases are all mirrored to Pinkerton because of our shared buses. Our school vacations, of course, are mirrored with Pinkerton and most of the other school districts in southern New Hampshire.
Board members, any questions or comments on the schedule? I'll make a motion to move the school district calendar to second reading. Any questions or discussion? All approved.
Good, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. All right, moving on to the deliberative session prep. So the deliberative session will take place Tuesday, February 3rd at the Hampstead Middle School at 7 p.m. The snow date is February 4th, 2026. And this will be an opportunity to, again, review the warrant articles and allow the public to potentially comment and propose any necessary changes.
It's very similar to a public hearing where we discuss and debate. The third verb is amend when it comes to deliberative session. So folks can make some amendments to some of the articles, not all. The one that is not amendable would be the collective bargaining agreements that were negotiated in good faith. But the budget, capital reserve contributions, others can be amended one way or the other. So it looks very similar to a public hearing, but with that one minor difference, which makes a pretty big difference, actually. So,
Yep. I would encourage everyone in the community to come out for that. Board members, any questions or comments on the deliberative session? Okay. Moving on to the district safety and health program document with Jeff Dowd.
Mr. Chairman, you have in front of you a rather lengthy document. I think it's about 60 or 62 pages. This is the Hampstead School District Safety and Health Program document. This was put together by the Joint Loss Management Committee, myself, and Lisa Gove. And we've been working with the Department of Labor, who has jurisdiction over plans like this. We had previously approved a plan back in 2024. The state has introduced the idea of a safety, in addition to the safety and health plan, they've introduced a student violence prevention and management plan as well. So that was a separate plan that we put together that ran parallel to this document. We have now incorporated that plan into this document. So we have one document with the safety plan and with the student violence prevention and management plan, as well as all of the forms that we need or would need to file in the event of an accident or unintentional contact, or any of the things that might require paperwork are now contained pretty much solely within this one document. So I will ask the board to, if you have any questions on the document. Otherwise, I will ask for you to approve the plan, which has been approved itself by the committee back in December, by the Joint Loss Management Committee.
Just a question on the committee that reviewed and approved this. What was the makeup of the committee?
Yeah, that committee is made up by a representative of each of our unions, administration, management, pretty robust across all the functions, which is really helpful because the document impacts work that is contained in the different areas represented on the board.
Board members, any questions or discussion?
So these are paper forms that people fill out?
Correct.
And they're only kept hard copies?
Some of them, yes, and typically in these situations where we want paper forms, if someone go to the office, fill it out, we don't have to have them go to a website and do an electronic form. The forms, once they are submitted, may get entered. So for example, the workers' comp form, injury form, first report of injury, that would get delivered to the building secretary, and she would then file that with our carrier electronically.
Oh, good. So it gets filed electronically eventually?
Yep.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept the Hampstead School District Safety and Health Program document. as written. Any questions or discussion? All approved. All right, moving on to the 2025 district audit report.
Perfect, thank you. In front of you, you have two documents. One is a letter addressed to members of the school board as well as the superintendent, and the other is a copy of the audit report itself. Our auditors were in the third week of July and conducted their work. We concluded the audit around that time. They do have quite a workload in the fall, so they issued this report on January 8th of this year. The audit report itself is what we'd call unqualified, meaning there are no exceptions to their opinion, that our financial statements are presented fairly. And what we call a governance letter, that's the letter that's addressed to the board, that will identify some side notes typically to whatever's going on. Sometimes it will just be contemporary issues. They made note, for example, at the end of that letter on cybersecurity policies and procedures, and just as for the governance as consideration, conducting a regular review of the school's district security policies and procedures is an effective method of maintaining an effective informational technology, secure technology environment. So they include things in this letter that may be relevant, but are outside of the scope of what they do. We do have quite a robust cybersecurity plan, but that's just an idea of what they'll identify that's outside the scope of their audit. It wasn't really a finding. The only thing that they made note of was that we do not have a district deputy treasurer. I don't know that we necessarily need one, but if we had an incident with our current treasurer, and really it would have to be something pretty significant, it may require a special meeting of the board to appoint an emergency meeting to appoint a new treasurer. The issues that we've had in the past, and we've been without an assistant treasurer for several years, the issues that we've had in the past is that treasurer work is very specific and it's a very niche space. And so when we have the treasurer, they do certain things in addition to typically authorizing the checks and wires and that sort of thing. They do their own reporting, and we look at our books from one perspective, the treasurer looks at our books from another perspective. When we have the treasurer and the treasurer do those duties and those responsibilities, that's great. When you have an assistant treasurer, that person needs to be able to do and step in to handle those exact same responsibilities. So finding someone with that skill level has been a bit of a challenge as of late. So this had been an issue. I believe they had made mention of it last year as well. So really that's all we have. That's nothing really on my end, but I can, if the board would like to take action on revisit the issue, I can bring forward a couple names for you at an upcoming meeting, and we can get that wrapped up, tidied up.
Personally, I'd like to see a deputy treasurer only because, like you said, if something catastrophic happened to our existing treasurer, we don't have a backup person to easily fill that role. So I think if you could bring forward a few names for consideration, that would be great.
I think too, not necessarily filling the role, but as the treasurer goes through the year, if they can kind of come up with a game plan, like these are the major things, the milestones and the things that they need to hit, in case if they are out, then we have a roadmap for whoever steps in to be able to do it.
Fair enough.
Now, is the treasurer, is that someone that works for the school district, or is that somebody outside that we employ?
It's an elected position.
Okay.
And much like the school board position.
Okay.
Our treasurer is Laura Jones,
Okay.
who's become among the best in the business, I have to say. In fact, when Timberlane, when their treasurer had fallen behind, Laura was kind enough to help out and get them back on track, which was particularly noteworthy because it's not her accounts and all that, but she's been able to step. She's been excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Institutional memory is huge. So even if they write down something for each month and then maybe do a video that's like, hey, if you have to take over, that kind of thing. I don't know if that's at least puts them in a place if we can't find a deputy treasurer.
Just a question on this note around the gift cards coming from the student activity fund.
Oh, yes, sorry.
So I guess when you receive feedback like this, is the plan to keep a distribution log moving forward?
So when this came up initially, the issue was that we were not always getting receipts with gift cards that were being distributed. So now we kept receipts. It looks like we had some that may have fallen outside the wire, and that's fine. But yes, we would implement just an ongoing log. But the problem with that is we don't always have the log at the same time the gift card might be distributed. So it could be to a family in need. It could be as a special gift for winning, I don't know, a contest or something. So yes, it would be to maintain a log. The receipts may be separate, but the log would then have and log every gift card in. And that may not be a receipt, but at least it's logging the gift card, logging the recipient. The receipt's still a separate matter, because that receipt goes with the gift card to be presented contemporaneously.
And I guess my question, just not knowing the reasons why, but I guess what's the logic around having it charged through the student activity fund versus another fund outside of that?
So our student activity funds have a lot of different subcategories, and one of them might be a sunshine fund that we might be able to help out and recognize, or the schools can recognize someone based on whatever balance they may have. Some of it might be to help a student in need or a family in need. There's usually a sub-account that they can help handle that as well. So there's a lot of different sub-accounts on the student activity realm. And typically those are usually the accounts that you'll see more gift cards come out, either as gifts or recognition of whatever it is that someone did, some accomplishment. And that's usually the context that'll come up. Or if it's a situation that it's helping someone who's in need.
And it's important to note too that the frequency of gift cards is extremely low and usually comes through some sort of donation process.
Sure.
And then also when we talk about our student activities accounts, there's a very small amount of money in these accounts. Again, they're held at the building, and some of them have a couple $100s in them. And when you look at that versus a $36 million operating budget, it's a very small amount of money, but it's still there.
There is no indication, I don't believe in that, in their note, and thank you for bringing that to my attention. I don't think there was any indication there that there had been any loss or suspected loss as a result. It's best practice type recommendation. Yeah.
Board members, any other questions or discussion on the audit findings? Okay.
That the things that we need to change keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller every time we do audits, so that's good.
And Jeff, you'll be looking for a motion, correct, to accept the 2025 audit?
Yes. Alternatively, I'm not sure what happens if you don't accept it, but it's just been practice. So,
all right. I will make a motion to accept the 2025 district audit report as written. All approved.
thank you. And that is posted on our website, actually at the bottom of our current year budget page. Anyone would like to take a look?
All right, moving on to policies for first read. We have IJ instructional materials. Suggested revisions include a name change and provisions that correspond to changes to the New Hampshire minimum standards for public school approval. We have JICN, the prohibition of identity theft, fraud, and deepfake images. This was a recommended policy that wasn't on the Hampstead School District books to protect students and staff from identity theft and misuse of deepfakes in accordance with RSA 683.25 through 638.26a. And we have EHAG, use of artificial intelligence, recommended policy not on the books yet, to address guidelines for proper management and responsible use of generative AI in the district's educational and working environments. IHCA summer activities. There were some suggested updates for district competencies. And EEAE, the school bus safety program, suggested updates, clarify drug and alcohol testing policies for contracted carriers in accordance with the new contracted carrier provisions in SB 147. So go ahead and look those over. Absolutely.
So, I think it's the AI policy.
Which one?
The prohibition of identity theft, fraud, and deep fake images.
Yep.
So, on the second page, any student, staff, faculty member who believes that they've been a victim of identity theft, fraud, misuse of deepfakes, or who has knowledge of such activity is required to report the incident immediately to a principal or designee. What if they are reporting something that happened outside of school?
So depending on the nature of the offense, the school does have responsibility. If you look at policy JICK, which is the Pupil Violence Prevention Act, that requires that any incident that occurs outside of school that has the impact on any individual's ability to access their education in school can be held accountable. So you'd have to look at each one of those on their merits from a school perspective. From a legal perspective, and part of the reason why we adopted this policy, and again, this actually came from Pinkerton. We took Pinkerton's policy and made a few tweaks, is because outside of the realm of school, even if we don't have the jurisdiction, it's still a misdemeanor. It's a pretty significant penalty. It's a criminal penalty, not just a violation. So while the school may not have jurisdiction over it, if it's not bullying, we have a duty to report any known or potentially known criminal activity to the authorities. So we'd present that information to the authorities.
So it will be like moved along.
Yes, if we learn about it, even if it happens outside of school, and even if it doesn't constitute bullying, we're still going to report it to law enforcement.
It would still fall into the process that we have for bullying and to decide whether it might be bullying or not, depending?
It depends. It really does. The nature of the victims. Because policy JICK is specific to student bullying. So if you had some combination of a student or a teacher, it may not fall under JICK. Depending on the nature of the video, it could also be Title IX if it were sexual harassment. What we're seeing as a sort of a regional group of other school districts is the frequency at deepfakes is increasing significantly. In fact, a few weeks ago I had a conversation with a superintendent in the area where criminal charges were filed against a student for creating a deepfake of a classmate. It's some very serious stuff.
Now, as a part of digital literacy, because we do teach some digital literacy, are we teaching the kids about defects, to understand that sort of thing, and to be skeptical of it?
You know, I would have said prior to last week that we're doing a pretty good job, but then after sitting through the presentation that Pinkerton did about all of the work that they are doing to educate their students in the ethical use of AI, I'm going to change my answer and say we're not doing a good enough job. And that is not a knock on our teachers at all. But I think we have only to look at our receiving high school to see like where the work needs to be done, because they really have a good handle on it. And you'll see next month we'll bring forward the AI framework that we've been working on since last July, and there's addressing some of that, but we are not as far along as we should be in terms of educating students about the ethical use of AI, not at this time.
I went to the Sending Towns meeting too. Does this policy match up favorably with what Pinkerton is doing for when they do the next steps and go on to Pinkerton?
So the JICN, the Prohibition of Identity Theft, Fraud, and Deepfakes, yes. In fact, I think the only major difference is we changed the title. The body of this policy certainly aligns. Pinkerton does not have, if we look at the EHAG, they don't have an EHAG. They do have very robust procedures, as we saw the other night. They also have a plagiarism policy that has a lot of AI language written guidelines and language written into it. And that's a policy that we should also look to update at some point, the academic integrity policy, because it doesn't speak to AI.
Yeah, and I do think that we need to know, and I had talked about this before we got into budget season, on what are we doing to teach the kids on how to understand information, where it comes from, to be able to make arguments and interact with other students. I know we're doing it, but I don't know what it looks like, and I think at some point I would like it for the district to come before the board and kind of go, this is how students look at information, this is how we teach vetting of information and how to make arguments, because I think the soft skills and verifying information is going to be important, and that kind of was, we added that to a certain extent to the school board goals, so.
I would agree, yeah. And right now, our use of AI, I think, largely or strictly actually is amongst our teachers. You know, Mrs. Tomaselli has led the curriculum initiative this year to update those curriculum guides to reflect the changes in Ed 306 and what would have been a really heavy lift. And don't get me wrong, it still is a heavy lift, but in comparison to how it was done in the old days versus how it's now being done with AI, it is just, it creates such efficiency. That's with our educators, right, on designing their curriculum, redesigning their curriculum, using it for instructional planning. What we're doing with students right now is, I would really say, not a whole lot. And part of it is not just the training of our teachers, which we're working on, but also a lot of these tools. ChatGPT is a good example. There's data privacy issues that's not a tool. Even Pinkerton isn't using that tool. And finding and vetting tools that are appropriate K through 8 is a little bit more of a challenge than what you'd find in high school. But it is, you know, now that we have the policies in place and we have the framework that we'll present on February 10th, I think we're well on the way.
Yeah, I think we need to have a healthy level of skepticism by our students on what comes off online that I don't think most districts do at this point. So.
And slightly a side note, but not really, one of the things that was mentioned at the Pinkerton Sending Town meeting, which I found fascinating, was they actually have students who refuse to use AI. And I thought that was sort of an interesting concept. We've had those conversations as a leadership team about some of the implications of AI. And so I definitely think that that's part of the planning that we have to do, is that not all students want to embrace AI for a variety of different reasons.
It's definitely a hard middle of the road to find where you want to prepare them, but you don't want them to be overexposed. So.
Exactly.
Board members, any other questions or discussion?
One more question, sorry.
That's all right.
Under the bus policy, school bus safety program, there is number 3 where it talks about prior driving record of each driver is checked. Is that annually? Or is that just before they're hired?
That is a great question. So the criminal background check is one time, but there is an annual component.
Yeah, and our school bus drivers are typically CDL certified, as well as school bus, as holders of school bus certificates on their existing CDL license as well. So while we have that aspect of it to check when they come in, if there is something that's an infraction that's so heavy that they should be driving a bus, typically the school bus certificate is handled by the Department of Safety.
Let me follow up with the bus company and get some clarification on that.
It's just a question that I've heard come up also in regards to like teachers and volunteers, because we all do criminal background checks, but are they reviewed?
Yeah, how often does your district do?
I don't even know.
When you started, and that was it.
When I started, yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know how.
Yeah,
often we
and the
review that.
standard of practice in New Hampshire is you have a background check at the point of employment, at the start of employment, and that's it.
Right. I will make a motion to move these 5 policies to second reading. Second. Any further questions or discussion? All approved. All right, moving on to our personnel report. Bob Thompson.
All right, we have 2 quick retirements, both professional staff from Hampstead Middle School. That's Sheila Gibbons, who is the HMS English teacher, 7th grade, and Allie Rubin, who is our family and consumer science teacher. I generally don't weigh in on these retirements, I just read them, but it would be hard to not just share my appreciation of being able to work with both Sheila and Allison over the last 4.5 years. They are tremendous educators, and I wish them the best of luck in the future.
and I'll echo that statement. You know, hearing Bob regularly refer to both of them as HMS institutions, that's what they are. They're, as far as employees in our district. So we as a board appreciate their contributions for years and years and years of service to the district.
Two of my children's favorite teachers here.
I could see that.
All right, board members, any other questions before we make a motion? I will make a motion to accept the 2 retirements of Sheila Gibbons and Allison Rubin.
Second.
Oh, got it.
Third.
Sorry, couldn't hear you.
Waiting for you.
All approved.
And can I point out, it's 8 o'clock on the dot.
Nailed it.
Which is exactly when we said we would start the interview with Dr. Crawford.
Right. Moving on to our superintendent finalist introduction and interview. So,
Will the board be introducing the candidate and then perhaps going into non-public, coming out? There are a couple other agenda items, or did you want to move the agenda for board comments?
Oh, yeah, we can do that. So let's move on to board comments and correspondence. Board members, anything to share of note?
So I went to Sending Towns. They are still working on a possible bus collaborative, which is awesome. Still a long road to go, but they're invested into that.
When we say long road, do we think?
No pun intended, by the way.
Yeah. Do we think?
Had to.
Like a year time frame, 2 years, 3 years?
I think it is too early to have any sort of time frame. However, they are exploring it and working on it, and it's not just a pipe dream. Like they're starting to put the legwork in. They did a bunch of presentation on AI, and I was astounded at the level of understanding and depth that they have put into that to help students to understand what effectively would be plagiarism using AI, what isn't, how to help them, how to unstick them. They literally have like a red, yellow, a green, and like all sorts of different examples. And also how to do it in math, because you can now take a picture with your phone and it'll answer math problems. And the effort they're putting in is super, super high. They also are reaching out to the district levels, student services people, about what the upcoming needs might be for students going into Pinkerton. So if they are going to look at programming, what program would be effective and helpful to move into there, which we've, at every Sending Towns meeting, we've put pressure on them to try to help with the special education load. So, you know, if we can have a program at Pinkerton and we're sending a kid 15 minutes instead of 45 minutes, it's better for the kids, and then it's also way more cost effective. And they're working on it. They have a new dean for that, and I think they're moving in that direction-ish, but I think as long as we keep putting pressure on, eventually we're going to get more from that, which will be good.
Board members, anything else to share? Okay. I have no other business or old business. At this point, we will introduce our superintendent candidate, Joe Crawford. Mr. Crawford brings with him decades of experience in leadership, curriculum, instruction, assessment, budgeting, and systems development as a teacher, team leader, assistant principal, and current assistant superintendent in the Derry Cooperative School District. He's also a co-founder and former director of the Next Charter School in Derry, New Hampshire. So Joe, if you'd like to come up. So welcome, Joe. I'll let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself beyond what I just
Okay, well, you covered a lot of it. Thank you for having me here tonight. I am overjoyed with the opportunity to be here right now. As the chair mentioned, I'm in my 26th year in public education. I grew up in Derry, New Hampshire, and then went off to college, came back, and immediately started teaching at Gilbert H. Hood Middle School, where I was a social studies teacher. I had the good fortune or the ill fortune, depending on how you look at it, to become an assistant principal at Gilbert H. Hood after 5 years of teaching. I did teach 1 year at elementary school in Lowell, kind of in the middle there. It's a little bit of a weird blip, my 1 year in public ed that I wasn't in the town of Derry. After 8 years as an assistant principal at Hood, I worked with a group of people. If you haven't heard much about Next Charter School, I'll talk to you about it some other time, but it's something that I am deeply proud of. But it's a public charter high school in Derry that was really started in conjunction with the Derry School Board and the community of Derry. Although it is a separate nonprofit organization, it sort of lives in partnership with the Derry schools. So I worked as the director, and I was a teaching director for 9 years at Next. And then in 2022, I became the assistant superintendent in Derry, and finishing up or halfway through my 4th year in that role. I am a big believer in public education. I come from a long line of teachers, and I'm really proud of the work that we do. I was so fortunate today to spend a good chunk of the day here in your community and in your schools, and I can see how important public education is to the people in this community. I was floored by how many of your staff members live in this community, which says something really special about you guys. But I'm an open book. If you have questions, if you want to know anything more about me, go for it.
And before we ask Joe questions, I think it's important to note for the public, Joe comes to us as a result of the Hampstead Superintendent Advisory Search Committee that was made up of co-chairs, myself and Dr. Cheney. And we, as a committee, made the decision to move Joe forward as a candidate for consideration for the superintendent on January 27th, 2026. So, board members, I will open it up to you. Any questions you have for Joe, particularly those that weren't on the committee. Both Missy and myself were part of that committee, so now's your opportunity to get to know him and ask some questions.
When you're all said and done and you with Hampstead, what's the legacy that you want to leave? How do you want the community to feel about you as a superintendent, whether it's students or staff or the community?
It's an interesting question. I haven't started, you already have me leaving, but I think it's a great question. I think the first thing I would say is I'm not all that interested in a personal legacy. I think that the measure of a great leader is that they put the organization first. It was really hard for me on a personal level to leave Next Charter School because it was like a baby to me, but I'm so proud that I was able to walk away and hand it over to the really talented people that are there now. But I do think your question has merit. So I will say that you heard me just a few minutes ago talk about my strong belief in public education. I believe that we are living in some interesting times to be public educators. And I am proud of the systems that I have both been a part of as a student and as a faculty, as an educator. It is clear to me in this very short period of time that Hampstead is very proud of their public education system. So I would hope that upon my retirement in 40 years or so, that the community of Hampstead is proud of where their public education system is. Because I think maybe we take for granted that public ed will always be around and that it doesn't face significant threats. So I hope to help steer this organization through those times. I also think that the job of a leader is to get the best out of people. And there are tremendously talented staff members, students, families, community members here. And if my legacy is that people rose to the occasion, people rose to the challenge, that I brought out the best in people, that I brought people together. So, I tend to believe that there are far more things that we agree on than we disagree on, especially when it comes to what's right for kids. So sometimes it means that you need to work hard to listen to people that you don't always agree with, and then you find a way to build consensus. Now, there are times where you got to, stake a claim on something that is right, and you've got to not back down. But I don't think that battles and fights, that's not the legacy that I plan to leave. I plan to leave a legacy of a stronger, tighter community. That's what I hope. But I don't care if they remember my name. That goes back to your initial question, Carl.
Yeah, you have a question.
Question for you. So, talking about entering a district, not exiting. Walking in, how do you plan to listen? What are you listening for first? And then how do you plan on taking those learnings and putting them into action?
So I think there's a lot of different ways that you listen. So obviously you want to hear people out. What are the things they're passionate about? What do they care about? What are they concerned about? What are they worried about? What are they fearful about? What are they proud about? But as I wrote in my letter to you folks, I'm also a big believer that actions convey values, or behaviors convey values, right? And so there is, I think I might have said it in the interview, there are many ways in which we show people what we stand for. Your budget is one way that you identify and convey your priorities. But the behavior. So I'm going to watch the way people act, right? Because I want to learn from people. I think that tells me a lot about people who they are. Maya Angelou said, when people show you who they are, believe them. And I'm a big believer that actions speak louder than the words. There was a second part to the question, which was that, can you remind me what the second part was?
Yeah, so after listening, how do you plan on turning those learnings into some sort of action?
Yeah, so I think that nothing that we do in an organization like this, we do alone. So I think the first step, after you've sort of listened and you have an understanding of what are people's fears, what are people's hopes, what are people's aspirations, you need to build a consensus by bringing people together and kind of forming teams. I'm a big believer in collaborative decision making. I think good leaders surround themselves with people that are smarter than them. And they're willing to take advice. They're willing to build capacity in other people. I'm by nature a little bit of a type A personality, which means I like to be over-prepared when it comes to, if we're going to take action, we're going to have a plan. And for me, when I work with, right now, I one of the responsibilities that I have is I supervise our school principals in Derry. And each of them I have worked with each of them to set a series of goals, right? And this gets back to that action piece. So for me, goals are largely aspirational, they're what do we hope to become? The second piece that I think is really important for leaders to help facilitate is, what does that look like, right? So what are the measurable outcomes? So if your goal is X, what would it look like if you achieved X? What are the things that would show up? What are we hoping for? But here's the part that I think sometimes people struggle with is, I don't think that's where it ends. I think the third piece is, what are the things you have absolute, complete control over in order to get those? Because many times our outcomes, like for instance, many districts will say they have one of their outcomes is to increase student reading achievement by some percentage, right? There are an infinite number of factors that impact that outcome. As a school, as a principal, as a teacher, I can control a small subset of those factors. good leaders direct people to focus on what they can control, right? Because it's, goals aren't about just setting, hey, I'd like all, 100% of students to be proficient in all subjects. That's a great goal. Awesome. We actually can measure that because we test our kids quite a bit. But the important piece is, okay, so now tell me all the things that we're going to do together. You're going to do. What are the things you can control? What are the things that you need help from me to control in order to put that into play? So it's not enough to have goals. It's not enough to have outcomes, but you need to have a plan. So I think that's kind of that third piece that I would help people develop.
As we approach the deliberative and we're knee deep in budget season, I'm curious what your experience has been or how you would handle the creation of a successful budget and navigating all of the different factors and the different stakeholders that weigh into that process.
Yeah, that is, it is in fact an unbelievably complicated process. And, I would say that the budget, although the budget gets a lot of attention in December and January and February, I think a lot of the work goes into the budget over the summer and in the fall as we really begin to assess what are the things that we know we need to do for our students, what are the non-negotiables, where are the areas that we believe there's potential for movement, right? Like, let's put money where it's going to move the needle. I believe, very strongly in investing in people. I think that we are in the people business, both. I mean, if you think about it, that's really what we're doing is we're trying to help prepare our students for the future. We're helping to prepare our students to be the best versions of themselves, but that all happens through other people, right? And whether that be parents or teachers or paraprofessionals or custodians, like, we have to invest in people because they're what move the needle. There is no simple way to do a budget. I mean, you guys have like about a $40 million budget. That is a massive organization, even though it probably sometimes feels like it's this tiny. I heard multiple people tell me today that Hampstead's this tiny little community and everybody knows everything and everybody knows everybody, which is exciting for me as somebody who's lived in my community for 41 years, grew up in that community. Most everybody in Derry knows who I am, and I know a lot of people too. So when you talk about stakeholders, I think everybody has a stake here in Hampstead in this budget, right? And just because people may come and they may say, cut this, or I don't like this, or I want this, we're not all going to agree. We're going to have to sort of walk through those pieces that have the greatest impact on our kids, right? And, on our staff members as well. It's a really hard question. I think you have to get everybody at the table. You have to be open-minded. You have to be willing to be very clear about your priorities, right? Like, I heard earlier today that, certainly you have a priority about class size. You also have a priority about your schedule. You have a priority about validating and believing in your teachers, right? Who say, we've got a plan. All of those things can be competing priorities. So you got to put them all out there. You got to do it out in the open. You got to be transparent, which is sometimes takes a lot of time. It can be cumbersome. It can get people frustrated. But as I told Bob today, people don't get under my skin. So I'm okay with those I would much rather people have heated conversations about public education than apathy, right? That's not what we want. We want engagement. Even if it means that it brings everybody out when we talk about the budget. I hope it does. We're not going to make everybody happy, but I think we need to listen to everybody.
Carl, Rich, any questions? Okay.
Mister, is there a question that you guys asked during the interview that you thought was important?
I think an important one for me was a controversial decision that you made and the outcome of that and why you knew it was the right decision.
So I think I gave you guys two examples. So I can give you both, but I'll start with the first one that I had talked about, which was, and I think I talked to Richard about this earlier today. we made a very difficult decision to close a school in Derry 2 years ago. And this was a decision that caught some people by surprise, although we had been talking about it for about 10 years. And whenever a decision like that is discussed, it brings out people from all corners of the community who have a vested interest, a stake, a personal connection to those things. So closing a school is not something I enjoyed doing. It's not something that we wanted to do. But this came back down to priorities, and it came to this long-term thinking about how do we ensure that we protect our community, protect our kids, protect our school district in the long term. So you have to do it. You have to do it out in the open, because when you don't provide people all the information, they will fill in the gaps with what they want to believe, what they're afraid of. Any type of conspiracy thing can get out there really quickly. So you have to do it transparently. We did a lot of studies. We had public hearings, we had surveys, we had reports from engineers, and eventually we put together a proposal to close Derry Village Elementary School. It was very difficult. It was my childhood elementary school, and I was. It's not something I'd want to go through again, but I think I still stand by it. It was the right decision. We, not to get too deep into the weeds, but Derry is a little bit larger than Hampstead. In 2005, Derry had about 4,000 students in grades 1 through 8. We didn't have public kindergarten in 2005. 20 years later, in 2025, we had less than 3,000 students K-8, and we had the same number of schools. And our schools were 20 years older. And we were facing the prospect of needing to put $10 to $15 million into really all of our buildings, but specifically a couple of really aging buildings. And so we put together a plan that was really hard. It included a lot of change. It impacted, obviously, families. It impacted students. It also impacted staff. We reorganized our district. We went from 5 K-5 schools to 4 K-4 schools, from 2 middle schools to an intermediate and a middle school. And, obviously this decision was largely driven by financial constraints, that had to do with enrollment, it had to do with aging facilities, right? But it also had to do with something else, which was how the community of Derry is constructed. Just as you folks do, but a little bit differently. Our students go on to Pinkerton Academy after middle school. But prior to this reorganization, the town was basically cut in half. And those students never really interacted in their community schools until Pinkerton Academy, when they entered the sea of 3,000 students on campus. And I worked at Gilbert H. Hood during the time when there was West Runningbrook across town, and those students and those families, they didn't necessarily have shared experiences. Our decision to reorganize the school and create an intermediate school and a middle school, I think, has brought the community together. It has addressed equity issues. It has created consistency among instructional practices, resource allocation, things like that. So, like I said, not a scenario that I would want to go through. But I think we made the right decision, and I think if you were to go talk to staff members and parents, largely today, you would hear them say, we made the right decision. But in the moment, there were torches and pitchforks, and there was a lot there, and we had to weather that storm because we knew that what we were doing was right for the long-term health of the community. How do you know you've made the right decision?
Yep.
In any decision or that one?
Any decision.
So I got great advice when I first became an assistant principal, and that was you need to take some time to really assess your core values, the things that you believe really strongly in as both a person, but also as a leader and an educator. and you need to write them out. You need to clarify those things. And those have to be your guideposts. Those have to be I think the metaphor that I used in the interview was the rudder of your boat. Because the world of educational leadership is rife with wrong turns. There are so many challenging, complex issues. In fact, I would argue that there are very, very few black and white decisions that to be made as a leader. Those are the easy ones, right? Those are the ones that aren't hard. The difficult decisions, how do you know that you're right? You look around and you assess the impact on your stakeholders, starting from students out. For me, students and families are who we work for. Obviously, we can't do that work without our staff, so sometimes there are times where we have to really balance those pieces. But again, I think we often have more in agreement between, I don't think we have as many conflicts between those groups as maybe some might make seem. I'm not somebody that is, I don't necessarily believe that I'm always right. So, I think I have a healthy level of imposter syndrome in that when I look around, I say, wow, these are really smart people around me who have a lot of great ideas. Maybe I should stop talking and listen to those. I do like the sound of my own voice, which you're probably getting. But I am a big believer in sort of shared leadership. And when I surround myself with people that I trust and that I know have the interests of students and families first, and we all come to a consensus, this is the right decision, I sleep well at night. So I don't know if that answers your question, Missy, but.
Board members, any other public questions or comments for Joe? What? Okay. All right, at this point, we will move into non-public under 91A3 2B, the hiring of any person as a public employee. Melissa, will you please take roll call? Yes, I'll make a motion to go into non-public under. Okay.
Shall I do roll call?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ms. Denton? Dr. Hebner? Mr. Cabarrus?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer? Yes. Dr. Poor? Yes. Okay, thank you. Time is 8:27.